Hello and welcome to the yeah, that's where we are. Welcome to Space Between Ideas. I'm Blaine Gates, and today we are going to continue the video from yesterday. Let's just figure out where to start here. All right, so let's start where we ended. I was talking about this vibe coding tutorial and best practices. This guy, Matthew Burman, he he likely saw the Y Combinator video because he named it his thing directly related to the Y Combinator video content. Um, and the thing is, like, okay, maybe he had some good rules, maybe he didn't. Today, what we want to do is we want to come up with some rules, and we're going to base these rules off of some of the research that I've done. I haven't really done it on purpose. It's just that as you start to bump into people who talk about cursor, then you start to realize that there are a lot of people who talk about these rules. If we start with this guy, remember that this guy Rob Shocks. So what I noticed is, remember last time when I was talking about how to set up the project by creating a product requirements document. He, that's in the second one, but like in the first one, he talks about AI cursor rules, the missing manual. What are cursor rules? Where are cursor rules? Where do cursor rules apply? Rules for AI, rules, and then common cursor rule examples. Let's take a look for rules for AI. These apply across all cursor windows that you open. I recommend storing your generic rules here for all projects. If you work in multiple languages, these should not be specific. You can forget that they are turned on when you switch and get confusing results. What? Rules for AI. I'm a little bit confused about that. Anyways, let's scroll down to the bottom. So you can submit your rules here. Basically, what he's saying is here are some common cursor rule examples. I'm going to do a little bit of reading, and then we're going to take the video from here, and I'm going to show you um, some other resources. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take all these ideas and we're going to mix them all together and come up with like the ultimate cursor rules, like because there's like I'm going to show you at least 3 or 4 different people. We're going to use Notebook LM. We're going to use all of these documents as resources, and then we're going to ask Notebook LM to help us with creating new rules. All right, so what is cursor rules? Follow the user's requirements carefully and to the letter. I mean, I don't know, is that useful? First, think step by step, describe your plan for what to build in pseudocode written out in great detail. All right, confirm, then write code. Focus on easy and readable code over being performant. Fully implement all required functionality. Leave no to-dos, placeholders, or missing pieces. Ensure code is complete. Verify thoroughly finalized. Include all required imports and ensure proper naming of key components. Be concise. Minimize any other pros. If you think there might not be a correct answer, you say so. If you do not know the answer, say so instead of guessing. Use early returns whenever possible to make the code more readable. Always use Tailwind classes for styling HTML elements. Avoid using CSS or tags. Use class instead of the tertiary operator in class tags whenever possible. Use descriptive variable and functional names. Also, even event functions should be named with a handle prefix like handle click for on click and handle key down for on key down. Implement accessibility features on elements. For example, a tag should have a index equals okay this that the other one similar attributes. Use instead of functions For example, also define a type if possible. All right, so this guy obviously has coding experience because he's talking about specific ways to do coding. Now, let's take a look at the next resource. This is something called repo prompts. Code smarter with AI. No more messy copy and pasting. Let repo prompt structure your prompts and apply AI changes for you. Why repo prompts? Zipping your whole repo, LLM underperforming, better AI coding, how it works, code map extraction, optimize XML output, find and select files, clipboard integration, precise, works with any model, privacy first. Now, I have no idea what he's talking about. So, for a vibe coding guy, it's like, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know why this is important. Compose chat review. I suppose what he's saying is natural programming language or English is different than having a coding mindset. And so you might be saying something, but the AI tool doesn't understand. The AI tool doesn't necessarily know how to fill in the blanks. This happens when I talk to people who speak English as a second language. What happens, and also when I speak my second and third, not yet my fourth language. When I speak Chinese, I remember that I used to say things and I thought I was saying everything that I wanted to express, but the actual words that were coming out of my mouth were nowhere even close to being all the things which I wanted to express. And in addition to that, the person who is listening, they're expecting to hear something that is somehow similar to sentences that they've heard in the past. So I have this two pronged problem, which is I'm expressing myself in ways that do not fully express the ideas that I'm trying to express. And also, the actual things that I'm saying, the words that are coming out of my mouth, they're not similar to what other people have heard in the past to express those ideas. So they just could, like, a lot of the time people couldn't understand what I'm trying to say. This happens. And then when I talk to people who speak English as a second language, the same thing is happening. Like, I ask them, okay, can you explain something? And they'll explain it. And it's already like a super simplified version because they don't know all the words that they would need to know in order to express the idea. But they think that they've explained it clearly just because they have a clear picture in their head. And then they're just saying a bunch of like semi-random words. And I'm like, I just tell them like, hey, that was a very simplified explanation, and a lot of the things you said were incorrect. Could you try again? And that's what the cursor AI is trying to tell you. It's trying to tell you, like, that's not the way to prompt me. That's not the way that you should express yourself because I'm not going to be able to get the result that you're looking for if you're explaining what you want in that way. I suppose repo prompt is like a way to let repo prompt structure your prompts and apply AI changes for you. Now, so what do you do if you don't want to get into repo prompt? Now, this YouTube channel is there's a thing called Sheer Power. There's this coding language called Sheer Power. And we have this cute little video.
Powerful, but are you using it to its full potential?
And then, well, okay, so smarter and more insightful responses by changing the way you ask questions. Welcome to making your AI smarter, where I'll show you how to craft the perfect prompts. So this guy wants to craft the perfect prompts. Well, what you could do is we could just copy that, and then we can create new project, put in a YouTube video, and insert. All right, so list the prompts mentioned in the resource. That way we don't have to watch the whole video. So here's a list of the prompts mentioned. Okay, instead of asking can AI personalized learning, try asking how can AI personalized learning personalized learning experiences for students. Explain the pros and cons for AI in healthcare. Walk me through how you arrived at that conclusion. Can you break down your thought process for this solution? What if I were what if AI were available in every classroom? How might it change teaching? All right, so it's going through a bunch of different ideas. And basically, it's saying that if you ask better questions, you're going to get better responses. Now, I, that's not actually the main focus. Like, this is just telling you that you have to have better prompts. Anyway, so I was looking through this YouTube channel, and I found this other principles and standards as defined by Rick Drury. This one was interesting because it sounded a lot like rules. So we'll copy this one, and then we'll add a source. Great, it worked. All right, so we'll jump back to the chat. All right, so can you create a set of principles and rules based on the content of the sources? List them in bullet points. It's called bullet points, and no added information or details. Just a list of best practices and principles that I could use as a set of prompt prompt as a set of that can be used when I create a prompt for my AI coding tool. They would read a set of bullet points and then begin the task. Focus on simplicity and clarity. Use open-ended questions to invite richer and more detailed responses. Employ multi-part prompts by combining related ideas. Ask the AI to think out loud by requesting step-by-step explanations. Provide context to generate more relevant and insightful answers. Use hypothetical scenarios to spark creativity and new perspectives. Ask for multiple viewpoints and broaden understanding. Incorporate trade-off analysis to analyze both benefits and drawbacks. Break down complex topics into more structured explanations. Utilize comparison-based questions to highlight differences and similarities. Use iterative refinement with feedback to improve responses. Frame questions with a time-based perspective to add depth. Use problem-solving questions to promote dynamic and practical thinking. So we want to copy this and then we jump into ChatGPT. All right, so it'd be useful. It would be I don't know. So what should we do? So okay, so I want to create a set of rules. Some rules apply to prompt construction, and other rules are helpful regarding specifically the process of developing a coding and AI coding software, a coding process to create the best final coding code. For example, here's a list of principles and rules to help the coding AI assistant as they begin the task, but lacks a clear understanding of the step-by-step process of creating code. Now, while we're waiting for that, well, bonkers. His name is David something. He's definitely from Eastern Europe. So he says, I spent 400 plus hours in Cursor. Here's what I learned. Now, right at this moment, he says, like, if you want to get my prompts, so here's like a whole list of prompts. He says, if you want that list of prompts, you can join my community. You can pay me $97 a month. Now, obviously, he's doing well because he's got 727 members in his community. So that's insane, which means he's making bank. So you add a zero, he's making $7,000 a month from this little thing. The price is going to go up to $250 a month. AI agent workshop, monthly call with David, step-by-step system for getting paid customers, list of 100 AI startup ideas, complete guide on how to prepare for AGI, code-based template and code, copy-paste templates, access to the smartest people in AI reveals his own doing. All right, so he doesn't exactly tell you what all of those things are, and then you can just click share, copy, go to Notebook LM, sources, add a source, YouTube, paste, insert. Now sometimes it doesn't work. This time it did. All right, so can you give me a list of prompts that the sources use to work with AI when coding? There should be at least, I don't know, 100? I actually don't know how many it was, because he says hours of coding, but I don't remember how many things in his video. Because like basically in his video, he has like a file. So he's talking about cursor rules, and then eventually he's got this big long list. He's talking about that tool here. Speaking and typing, no, not this one. He brings up a window. Here it is. All right, so here he brings up a window, and then he's got like fewer lines of code, the better. Proceed like a senior developer. Do not stop working until. So he's going to go through this entire, like, I don't know, whatever this is. He's got a whole list, importance 45. So I don't really know exactly what's going on. All right, here, so the fewer lines of code, the better. Proceed like a senior developer. Do not stop working until you've implemented. Answer short. I don't think we're going to get to 100. Load the entire thing into the composer. You tag it when you have an error. So, all right, so it gets longer and longer and longer, which means eventually they just run out of the short answers. Include your environment variables. Use tree command, brew tree. To get file structure, obviously you can use this. Repeat the important instructions from anywhere. Highlight the importance of writing comments. Find the font. All right, so it looks like he actually includes your create a process of a set instructions that you repeated. Include your front end, your back end, and database, and all technical data. Define your personality you want Cursor to have. For example, teach me like a senior developer would. Project overview, provide vision of the project. Check the branch that you're on. How can I help? Okay. Hmm. Hmm. All right, so check all the sources and give me one sentence long prompts that I can use to give orders to my AI development tool that will increase the likelihood of getting the output from the tool as I desire. Now, I don't want to read all that, so I'm going to just jump right back into. I guess you weren't watching what I was watching. Anyways, let's get back into the ChatGPT. So, what did I ask it to do? Okay, I want to create a set of rules. In addition to listing the above rules in the next response, also add these coding specific ideas. When all the ideas have been combined, into a single list, remove any redundant ideas. See, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to create like a real long list of all possible ideas. I mean, it's like how many rules? See, nobody's really answered the question of like what is the set of rules that you need? What's the most amount of rules you need? What's the least amount of rules? What are the best sets of rules? I think this is all up for debate right now. And so like people are using this tool, but all right, so simplicity, clarity, and conciseness. Focus on simplicity, clarity in both instructions and code. Aim for clean, minimal solutions. Use modifiers like answer in short to avoid verbosity. Provide rich, relevant context to generate insightful responses. When performing web searches, include AI to include all relevant context. Use summary of current state. Use open-ended questions to invite. It's like see, so I have all this gigantic list of rules. I can copy this set of rules. Click copy. Where would these rules fit in the above categories? So now we got the original rules from our first guy. We have some principles from then we got some like a hold from David. And then eventually I tried to pull them all out using Notebook LM. And then I combined them in ChatGPT in order to get some kind of like best list of rules. Great. All right, so then what we do is we just copy this. We open up our cursor AI. Is this the best format to add to the rules section of cursor AI? And then what's next? So I think the next thing to do is, now that we have our rules set, is that we have to figure out like the repository. Are we going to connect to some repository which already has some amount of code, some like standards or some examples? Like how does our cursor connect with some other code base in order so that it can work more efficiently and already have something to work with? Or are we just starting from scratch? Let's take one last look at this. So does the current grouping accurately reflect the priorities you want for each rule? Would you like to adjust the grouping? Would you like to step by step? What the heck is this talking about? Okay, so create prioritization based on the principles. Who knows? Like it's like throwing spaghetti at a wall. I have no idea what I'm talking about. It's like, what are you even trying to do? You copied and pasted a bunch of rules that other people have written, and then you want ChatGPT to use those rules in order to create a set of those rules. Follow the user's requirements precisely. Follow the rules requirements carefully and to the letter. Always double check that every instruction is addressed exactly as specified. Repeat, if it's not in the requirement, don't add it. Clear step-by-step planning and reasoning. Think step by step. Describe your plan in detailed pseudocode. Confirm the plan with the user before writing any code. If uncertain or an answer is unknown, say so instead of guessing. Full implementation and code quality. Fully implement all requested functionality. Leave no to do. Ensure code is complete, thoroughly verified, and includes all required imports. Follow strict naming conventions. Use descriptive naming and reflect prefix events functions with handle. Focus on easy to read code. Uh, Repeat complete, clear, and correct code is non-negotiable. Specify coding conventions and best practices. Use early returns to enhance readability. Always use tail to critique. Use class. Implement accessibilities. Prefer using consistent conventions lead to reliable and maintainable code. Iterative improvement and transparency. Provide clear reasoning and a detailed explanation for your approach. Iterate and refine based on feedback. If something isn't clear, ask for clarification. Transparency and iteration improvement. Okay, interactive walkthrough for applying these rules. Step 1, review. Users requirement. Verify that every instruction is followed to the letter. Ask for clarifying questions if any part of the requirement is unclear. You plan your approach. Write it detailed to the code outline. Think step by step. Confirm plan. Amplify. Write complete, easy to read code with no missing pieces. Include all requirement. Applying code. Use this. Do that. This, that. Review your code. Ensure code is concise and clear. Double check. Verify to-dos. Read. Confirm iteration. If there's any uncertainties, explicitly mention them. Ask for users. There. All right. So there you go. So I don't know. Is that this? Is that the rules that need to be? Is that is that it? Is that the best? So I just took a bunch of examples from a bunch of videos online, and now I'm going to add it to my cursor in the rules section. Anyways, let's go back to my project that I'm creating. You can see I've made a couple of changes since the last time that I saw you. Yesterday, I was really pushing to talk about like I'm pretty much done now. This is all finished. So I got this little thing here. You start here, and what you have to do is you have to create a project. And when you create a project, that means that you need to talk about the vision of the project. Now, that's actually been edited, but the first question is like, do you have an objective in mind? If you do have an objective in mind, then you can go directly to the objective. If you do not have an objective in mind, you're going to have to go through the create crucial insight, state inventiveness, and then what? So it says what have you picked an objective? So if you go through this checklist and then you have an objective, you go straight to here. So I have an objective, so let's start creating the objective. If not, then you go through state impact, and state impact will help you to make a decision. Once you made a decision, then the answer becomes yes, and then you need to describe the objective. Now you need to do both. So you both need to create a scoreboard. And also, you need to do these daily follow-up activities. So the daily follow-up is called a touch base. After you complete the touch base, then you need to update the scoreboard. So you create the scoreboard, and then now you update the scoreboard. After you update the scoreboard, you might also be updating a status. Then the question is, all objectives completed? I shouldn't say all objectives. So are all tasks completed? Now, if all of the tasks are completed, that means that the project is hmm, well, it's definitely if all the tasks are completed, then that means that and then if the project is complete. So if the project is not complete yet, then you go all the way back here, and the question is, I have an objective in mind. So if your project isn't complete yet, it means you have to do another project. If your project is complete, then you go all the way back to the beginning, where now we have to create a new project. If you're if not all of the If not all the tasks are complete, then of course you need to go back to the touch base, which will then you'll need to update the scoreboard until you can update all the statuses to finish. All right, so this now it's it's finished. I finished all the loops for this application, which means at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to type it out. Some people like to talk to do their vibe coding and just explain what's going on. I will probably be typing it because I'll just explain this. So I'll start from the top, like top left-hand corner. I'll explain this user interface, and then I'll say, okay, here's the next step, and then here's the question, and then here's the user interface, and then here's the question. If it's yes, then you go to here. If it's no, then you go to here. So then you explain what happens if you click no. Here's the user interface. And then the next question is a yes or no. If it's a no, then it's the user interface. And if it's a yes, then here's the user interface. Now, once you get to this user interface, then you need to do both of these things. The first thing that you need to do is this user interface. And then the next thing you do would be on subsequent times, then you would be back to this user interface here. So, I mean, that's true. You don't actually go directly from here to here. So that's kind of a problem. Because actually what happens is there's like a there's another loop that goes in here. All right, but I'm not going to do that right now. Anyway, so you can see the issue. Whenever I watch these guys talk about vibe coding, you're not really seeing them build something new or interesting. You're not really seeing them do their project. They're like, "Hey, can you copy Twitter?" And it's like, "What do you mean copy Twitter?" Like, yeah, I could copy Twitter. Here you go. Here's the code for Twitter. And it's going to be like 5% of what actually the code is for Twitter. Because it's only showing you the user interface. It's not talking about the algorithm. There's like so much of the code that you're not going to be able to see in their vibe coding. So I don't know. And then you listen to these guys talk about vibe coding, and they don't have a new project idea. They're not, you know, it's weird, like, because you'll see stuff like this new society. He even wrote, he's like, okay, so look, I got a list of 100 plus AI startup ideas worth $500. That's garbage. What do you mean you have 100 plus? I could just like click this, just copy and paste. Then I'll go in here, and then I can just like paste it in here. It's like, and then I can just list 100 plus startup ideas that can make me $500 a day. You see, so like, because he's using code to solve all his problems, he's using AI tools to solve all his problems. But at this point, I don't think that you can rely on code like AI tools to solve all your problems. I think that you have to also use your brain. And like, are you just doing this for some kind of marketing thing? Anyways, like, this is like the wrong one. Like, you're gonna have to put it back into the '04 model. Otherwise, it's going to ask too many follow-up questions. You see, so you change it to the 4.0 model, and then boom. So then it's going to give me a list of AI-driven SaaS startups, resume builder, AI cover letter. See, so this is all stuff that like people can make. If you want to use your cursor or your whatever it was, windsurf, to create some kind of piece of software, great. Here's a bunch of ideas that use AI, and I think it's wonderful. Go ahead, try it. But anyways, for me, what I did was like 10 years of research and clinical trials using the foundation of Tom's book, Create Crucial Insight, to understand how the project management process actually works in reality. And then I teamed that with some ideas from his book in order to create this engine. So on the right-hand side, what you have is a project management engine. And what I'm starting to see on the left side is a performance management engine. So we have two things. So you have the side of the company who is just interested in project management. Now, there's a lot of assumptions here, like we have enough resources, we have enough data, we have the right motivations, we have the right team, and we're headed in the right direction. All of that is kind of like assumptions. Those are assumptions that are on the left-hand side. And then now go and do it. So perform the task which I want you to perform. That's what happens on the right-hand side. Perform the task which I want you to perform. I mean, somebody gave you the project, and now I want you to manage the project until completion. That's the purpose of this app. Now, on the other side, there's of Tom's book are the executive level functions. The executive level functions is like talking about synergies. Like, are we connected to the right types of synergies? Meaning, can our organism grow? And then within all of those synergies, when we talk about the projects that we want to pursue, then do we have the right team composition? And then, all right, so next is once we have the right team composition, does that team have members of the team who have the right types of motivation? Do they have access to the right kinds of data? And also, do they have the right types of resources? So that's all executive function. That's executive level and manager level. I'm calling it performance management. So on the right side, we have project management. On the left side, we have performance management. And I haven't built that all out yet. It's coming slowly, as you can see. I'm starting to get the pieces together. But for the left side, it's done. Like everything's done. The only thing that we have here, there's some small buttons here and there that I need to figure out how to deal with those things. So now we got to jump into cursor. We got our cursor rules. The next step is the repo. So what does it mean to use some kind of repository, code repository in order to start your project? Do I need to have some kind of repository? Should I just vibe code from nothing? Am I ready? Once I have the rules, then we can start. I have the idea, I have the rules. I'm going to create the project requirements document. I think also I need to finish that project requirements document. And then, well, we got this. Let's look at the second prompt. So this guy, he says we need to create an interface design document. You are an expert UX designer. Your role is to work with the project owner to to generate a custom user interface description document. This document will be in markdown format. So he's talking about what are the actual buttons going to look like? What's the style? What's the layout? What's the core components? What's the interactive pattern? Visual design, color scheme, mobile, web app, desktop consideration, typography, accessibility. And then finally, when you finish that, then it's going to ask you about your, like, specifically, what are you going to use for your software? You see, it's going to be a software requirement specification doc. You are an expert software architect. Your role is to work with the project owner to generate custom software requirements document. So we're talking about system design, architecture, pattern, state management, data flow, technical stack, authentication process, root design, API design, database design. So, and that's an issue, right? Because basically what happened is I've only designed the user interface. And this is the front facing user interface. This is for the users. The question is, what does my dashboard look like? I'm the owner of Arrowhead. I'm the owner of this system. And from backend, like what kinds of data do I want to be able to see my customers' data? And what does the dashboard looks like that I'm looking at? Am I looking at how many users and am I trying to get data from that database? So there's just so many unknowns. And when you go into the process of developing software, there's the unknown unknowns. So I don't know. I think that than the vibe coders are making it out to be. But I also believe we can do it step by step. So let's keep it going and maybe get a haircut. Peace out.